So we're going to kick off in cinema. I'm going to kick off with Strange World. Strange World in cinema, which I saw. And Strange World is a new
And Sean has seen that one as well.
Yes, yes, yeah. I believe Sean saw that as well. So Strange World. It is a new Disney movie. This is a new Disney movie. It is Sharon. I know, animated. So that is like your kryptonite. That is kind of like your why. What is even the point? This is not what. This is not what my eyeballs were made for. I understand that. I understand that is your approach, and I know that you have an antipathy towards anything animated. But Sharon, I know that you have one animation thing that you watch a year, and I think you would like this. I think you would like
Okay.
this because the thing is every single well, if you look at any of the stills from this, right? This looks like think 1950s and think the cover of a Jules Verne novel. I know the
Yeah.
art that's on the cover of a Jules Verne novel. Almost every shot in this film looks like that, and
Okay.
it is so stylized. So it's a science fiction film, but the style I would almost say is kind of like a modern. Um, of, it's a kind of thing that would make people start using words like retro futurist because it's almost kind of like a modern tale on what people thought the future would look like in the 1950s. So so it kicks off and the premise of it is that there's this place called Apollonia. Apollonia is this town somewhere, and they have this guy called oh no, it's something Clade, but his voice by Dennis Quaid, and he's this massive explorer, and everything about him is about exploring and is about going forth and is about finding things, and he has this obsession with going and finding the future of his civilization on the other side of these mountains, other side of these mountains that sort of like hem the Apollonia in. But he drags his son, Searcher Clade, voiced by Jake Gyllenhaal, around, and he drags him around everywhere. He drags him up these mountains and everything. And his son is really not an explorer. And his son is really much like, Dad, I don't want to be doing these things. But he's like, but he doesn't care. He wouldn't hear any of it. I think personally for me, I think this film is beautiful. I think that the art is brilliant. I think that the conception of this world is amazing. This strange world, which we'll get to. But the whole idea is that this guy he drags his son around on all these explorers, and his son is not really an explorer. His son does not want to be an explorer. And when they're one of these expeditions going up like a snowy mountain, and they look like they're dressed like Scott of Antarctic and everything, like just sort of like trying to get up this mountain. His son finds this plant, and this plant sort of like crackling with energy, and he goes and his son goes, I think this is something that we found here. And his son decides, I don't want to go with you to the other side of the mountain. I want to take this plant and I want to study it because I think that this could be the future of our civilization. The rest of his explorer group sides with his son, and then he just walks off onto the mountain going, well, I don't need you. I'm just going to go off and do my own thing. And then he disappears and nobody ever sees him again. But his son goes back home, and you jump 25 years into the future. His son is now a farmer of this plant that he found called Pando, which looks like broccoli, but essentially it powers the entire civilization. It is their electricity, essentially. It powers their ships, it powers their cars, it powers their houses, it powers everything Pando. And because of this, they've thought of this guy. They got Searcher Clade, his son. Is like he is the father of our civilization, because without you finding this thing, we would never have gotten anywhere. But then what happens is that this plant starts to die, and so the all of the energy comes realizing this plant, and then it starts dying. And when it starts dying, they're like, we need to figure this thing out. And then the president, who used to be part of his father's explorer group, says we need to go and explore and find the heart of this thing, figure out why it's dying, and revive it, because if not, civilization is going to fall apart. So he goes off. And through one manner or another, his entire family ends up joining him. So him, his wife, and his son. And then it becomes this whole thing about father son, going into this strange, like, there is very much a 2000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth heart running through this entire film, where they go into this strange world, and there's all these different things. I think the realization of the world is brilliant. I think it is beautiful. I think it is great. And I really really enjoyed this. I really really enjoyed this. There were some bits of it that there were bits of it that I started figuring out as it was going along, but I think I just thought, I'm gonna bother thinking too hard. There's a reveal towards the end that is very there's a reveal towards the end that, if you're a fan of sci-fi and fantasy, will be familiar. Is, I think I'll put it that way. If you're a fan of sci-fi and fantasy, it will be familiar, especially British sci-fi and fantasy. It will be familiar. But all in all, I I really really enjoyed it. Sean, you fire away. You tell me what you didn't think about this film.
Okay. For me, I've found it for me personally. I mean, yeah, the animation was lovely and all that. I found it a little bit patronising. I think
it,
it was for me. It felt okay. Okay, I can understand this is probably more for youngsters. I mean,
it
so
certainly
yeah,
isn't subtle.
pardon?
It
Yeah, no,
isn't
certainly
subtle.
wasn't subtle at all.
It isn't
Certainly
subtle.
wasn't subtle at all. No, no, no. So, but I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm not saying. I just found it a little bit too. I don't know, a little bit too long. I was getting a little bit, but I did go and see it with my mate and his little lad, and his little lad loved it. He was like, couldn't take his eyes off it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it obviously works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I think that the film is there's this recent thing with Disney about you have a power, and this is the way, like, you think the world goes and everything like that, and then the power starts going away. It happens in Encanto. It happened in Moana, and I think Disney are going into this whole thing where, and this film is a very very unsubtle ecological fable. It's a very very unsubtle. Okay, our power is running out. Oh, the thing that we're relying on might not be the best. We need to find another way of doing it. And there's the old way of doing it, signified by the dad who walked off into the thing. There's the possibly what you thought was the new way of doing it, which is to search by Searcher Clade, and then there's the future, which is the kid, and
yeah,
it's extremely unsubtle, and
yeah.
and I actually to be honest with you, I kind of like that. I kind of like, because sometimes there's some films you watch and you're kind of like, okay, what was the point? Were they trying to say that? Was there an allegory? Were they? I like the fact that this was just going, okay, no, this is not supposed to be hard to get. It's not supposed to be hard to get, and you especially with everything we're talking about, the energy crisis now, and people trying to figure out how they're going to pay for stuff. This film has come at a time where you're like, it's really not subtle what the film is trying to say.
Not
Like,
subtle at all. No, in fact, some of the
environmentally and ecologically, it's not subtle.
not subtle. And yeah, I mean, some of the should we say some of they had plenty of other ethnic characters that just popped up for like seconds, which I thought were quite they had the whole like so it was very what's the word, it was very cosmopolitan with,
it was
like,
very diverse. I think
that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the cast, I mean, even the voice cast is quite diverse. The fact is that Searcher Clade and his wife, I can't remember her name, but they are a dual heritage couple. He's black, no, she's black, he's white. She's voiced by Gabriel Union, so their son is mixed race and all that. And and I quite like that. I quite like the fact that I quite like the fact that that even in smaller roles, this Avalonia is a place where all sorts of races are represented. I really like that. Now, a big thing that Sean was referring to is that people have referred to this as one of Disney's first films, if not their first film, where they have a gay lead character, and they don't shy away from it. They don't shy away from the fact that the son Nathan is gay. That's like one of the first things you learn about him, is that he's gay. And I know that there's been a lot of chat about this, and there's a show you're talking about. You think it's not going to be shown in some countries. I'm pretty sure that it's not being shown in China, because Buzz Lightyear, I mean, the Lightyear film had one scene where a woman hugs another woman and kisses her, almost like a chaste church kiss. And they go, "That's it. We're not showing this film. This film is the sort of first love thing plays a much bigger part of this film, going through."
I mean, why I was thinking that is because they actually, in out of the youngsters, because there's like 3 other youngsters, isn't there, apart from the son, and one of those is a girl.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I wondered if they put that in there, and then like if they wanted to put different subtitles on, they could pretend that was. I mean, I know it's more obvious with the thing, but I no, that's being too clever, isn't it?
Yeah, you could do that, but no, they wouldn't do that. They would oh my God, Lord, the PR storm that will come down on their head. I mean,
you see my logic. What I was thinking. I wondered why that.
I can see your logic, and I think in a pre-internet day, that's the kind of thing that I can imagine would happen, where you get a different cut of the film in Russia or in China or somewhere like that. But in these days, where from a phone you can figure out what's happening on the other side of the world, they're not going to do that. So it's and I quite like the treatment, because there's when you have an issue, that you want to talk about in film or something like that, be it like ecology or environmental stuff or anything like that, there's ways of doing it in which it feels like you're smacking the audience over the head with it, and you're going, "This is important. This is look how worthy we are." And there's ways, and when that's done that way, it puts me off. And I say that as somebody who Sharon, you guys have heard me bang on about colonialism and talk about it in films and everything like. And I have an axe to grind when it comes to colonialism in films. I have an axe to grind when it comes to the representation of Africa in films. And even with that, I still think the way of going about it when you have an axe to grind, when you have a point to make, is not to beat people over the head with it. It's not to act like, oh, look how worthy this thing is. It's just to present it and it's there. Move on. And I really like the way this film did that, because it really presented it as, it's there, move on, nobody cares.
Move on, yeah, deal with it. That's it. Yeah, you're right.
And so all in all, I really enjoyed the film. I love the characterization. I love the characters, and I just think it's one of the most beautiful looking films I've seen in ages. There's just a lot of shots that I would take a snapshot of that and put that on the cover of a book, because honestly, the world that they realize is amazing. And I would give it a 4.
Yeah, I would probably. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I did find it, like I said, a little bit patronising. So I will give this one a 3.
Yes,
this one's 3. Yeah.
And I would entirely see that, respect that,
Thank you.
and agree with that. But I'll give it a 4 because